And we are live on Oz Property Investors. We bring the big names, and we have two guests this week instead. Well, not two guests, two other people. Because last week, poor Aaron. Like I feel for Aaron, but anyway, we're gonna let go of that. We're gonna move forward to the Mr. Todd Sloan, Mr. Pizza King, as I call you. I hope you don't mind me.
I don't. It's literally one of my favorite things in the world. The podcast name is not a mistake.
Oh, there you go. No, but that's Okay, so how you going anyway, Todd? What's happening? I see.
Good, man. Lots of stuff's
Under
happening.
construction.
And yeah, you and I were just having a little joke around before. I think the first time I think I did a live with you guys was when I was building the first studio, and it was half built. And I'm now sitting on my laptop in a half built studio again. So yeah, man, I think next time I get the call from you guys, I'll know it's time to move again.
Yeah, I love it. It's from Scaling and Growing, the amazing pizza and property podcast. So if anyone hasn't checked that out, you definitely should be on that one. You should be checking that out and learning from the Todd Sloan, because you have some amazing guests on there. I mean, you had, what's that negotiation guy?
Chris Voss.
Chris Voss.
Oh, geez, he's so amazing. Joe doesn't even know his name. He's built it up. He's like,
Well, I'm excited for this episode. I am excited to have Toddy Sloan on. We're going to be talking about some interesting things. We're going to talk about cash flow or cash flops. What are unit blocks? Are unit blocks the way forward? Is this the thing that we should be looking at or considering? Obviously, none of this is financial advice. So when you shouldn't be considering any of this, you should just be thinking about it. We are not putting it forward to you. But okay. How are you, Jeff? How are you anyway, mate?
I'm good, mate. The weather out here in Australia is beautiful, or at least in Wollongong. Yeah, I know. But over in Perth, it's absolutely raining cats and dogs. It's like 12 degrees over there here, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like 22 degrees here today. I got my shorts out. I got my sunscreen. But no, going well, Joe. I feel like I comment on the weather every week, so it should be a Jeff thing. Going really well. Living the dream. How about you, Joe? Which part of Europe or the world are you in today?
I'm in the UK. I'm still in the UK. I'm in London. So living my best life, but I will be back in Australia next week. So I'm looking forward to that. So we can have some better time zones, better lighting for these live sessions. But the weather here is unreal. It's like 25, 28. It is England, Europe in summer is the best.
I hear it's pretty fiery down in Greece, so maybe that's not a joke I should say. No, thoughts that's not going to go well. Sorry, but no. Quote of the week. No, Italy was also, but no, we are live. So, Joe, what's your quote of the week? Or do you want me to go first?
Yeah. Quote of the week. So this is my quote of the week. This is one done by Robert Kiyosaki. He says, just as a fisherman must watch the ebbs and flows of the tide, an investor must keep keenly aware of the subtle shifts in cash flow. So Mr. Kiyosaki giving some valid advice. Cash flow is king, as they say. That's my little quote of the week.
Should get Robert on. I wonder if he's not going to be the biggest guest as Todd, but the thing I'd have, anyway, the challenge, anyway, we could have a chat about Rob and my thoughts on, Mr. Kiyosaki. But what's your quote of the week, young Todd?
Mine is a Zig Ziglar quote. Don't be upset with the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do.
Ooh, wow, that's profound.
That's really good. I've not heard that one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I'm going to use that.
Good little self-kick in the ass thing. Whenever you're feeling sorry for yourself, you're like, wait a second, did I actually do the work? Or am I sitting in a position I'm not happy with because that's probably where I'm supposed to be because I didn't do it?
Yeah.
Very good. Great. Very good.
That's
What about you, Jeff?
I've learned a lot of Zig. Yeah, I've heard a lot of Zig quotes, but I haven't heard that one. So fantastic! You introduced me. I used to listen to him all the time. So my one is the biggest risk of all is not taking one. By Melody Hobson. So I think she's actually a CEO in self-development. But I think it's quite similar to Todd, sort of talking to, we got to do the work, but you've also got to accept that there is a risk in anything that you do. There's risk in not doing anything as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Risk of inaction is probably bigger than the risk of action. I'm pretty sure I just paraphrased your quote then. Actually, I think I've definitely just stolen it.
Yeah, I was listening to your session, though, on about those 117 hotspots, and you were chatting about that Carafa sort of area that Terry Ryder mentioned. You're like, yeah, that's probably – I think that probably is less risk in not buying in that particular area.
And that's a good point. Yeah, it doesn't mean just literally do anything you want. There's still some some merit to being cautious, but it's about making sure that you're in that middle ground. Because if you're just Mr. Cautious, never doing anything, or Mr. Crazy, just doing everything, both can work out equally as bad.
Balance. I like it. So on this session, we're going to be talking about introduction as to how Todd sort of thought about or sort of getting into units or unit blocks, and I suppose the pros and the cons, like all the sort of mechanics, the bits and pieces, the financing, the challenges he had, the opportunity he saw, like and why it sort of has worked and is going to work for Todd. So we're going to be talking all things unit blocks, and we might even throw in a sprinkle of financial freedom at the end, an update on where Todd's sort of sitting at. So stay tuned right to the end, people, and drop your questions. If you're interested in cash flow, mega cash flow, we want to hear from you. So somebody said cash flow is better than blue chips. So, I mean, I don't know, courses for courses, but it might be better. But why can't you have a blue chip unit block though? A bit of both. Best of both.
It's definitely not blue chip. How do I change it from saying Facebook user for everyone? Can I do that?
Oh, you can't, because people have to agree to the StreamYard. I can tell you who it is. It's very likely. I'll tell you who it is, but it's probably, what's his name? Probably either Hayden or Brendan. I'd say Brendan Corbell. He loves it.
But I'm also interested about your strategy as well. Like, unit blocks look very attractive. They got amazing yields on them, but it's not your first purchase. Like, you've been building up your strategy over time. You've been building up your portfolio over time, and then now you've introduced one probably to I don't know. Is this the middle of your kind of property journey or towards the tail end of your property journey? So I'm interested to kind of unpack that. Some people have it set up where they I'm buying 8 properties in this amount of time, and others are like, I'm just going to do what I do, and I'm going to do my best and get as much as I can.
There's not like a measured time on it, and I this is where I kind of balance between a few people. Like, I very much subscribe to Hayden's always keep buying, but that's if it's actually something that you're enjoying as well. To actually hit the goal itself, well, then that's a little bit more structured. But then once you hit the goal, if you're enjoying what you're doing, you don't just go, oh, well, I guess I can't keep going anymore. You keep doing it if you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You get very good at it. And that's the funny thing about, entrepreneurs and property people, because when you are buying a property, you are starting a business. They say passive income. No, there's no passive income in property, unfortunately. There is work involved. It's not incredibly difficult work, but there is things you have to be doing. You are kind of creating a little mini business when you buy a property. You've got tenants that you have to look after. You've got customers that you have to look after. You've got property managers that you have to manage. You've got staff. You've got cash flow.
Is it optimized? If it's not optimized, then what do you need to do?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a very good point. When is the best time to renovate the unit block or the house, and when's the best time to develop, and how do I manage my cash? Because it's managing the capital that you have, managing the borrowing capacity that you have, and then also the serviceability, and how do you and the equity, and it's a big balancing act, but we don't want to confuse it too much because it's really not that hard.
And so when I got to this point, I was basically at that level when it was a play where I had more capital behind me. I wasn't sure what I was doing career-wise, because I was thinking of potentially stepping away from being an agent, which was my stable income for 8 or so years, however long I was doing that for. But then I also knew that if I was going to end up starting the business, which I'm now in at the moment, that I'd disappear from the banks for a few years. So I wanted something that I could renovate later on, but that also when interest rates started going up, because we all knew they were going to go up, just not that quickly. But either way, still planned for it. So that way it wasn't going to eat me alive as the business was actually starting to grow its legs and begin to walk.
Yeah. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I started my business. I had a large nest egg of money saved up to start the business, to get it going and doing those type of things. And this is a thing that if you are thinking about starting a business or changing career into something completely different, and being a contractor or something else to a PAYG employee, I wanted this nest egg of money here, and I could have bought a property, but I knew that I was too risk averse. And I said, no, I'll hold on to this money and start the business instead of buying a property right now. So then I did that, but the business was successful and it worked straight away. It was cash flow positive from day one. And now I had all this money here, just sitting here, and I couldn't use it for 2 whole years of doing nothing. So you just need to think, when you do leave, you've got pretty much 2 years. Sometimes you can get it done in 1 year and you can borrow and do that type of thing. But then there are other opportunities though, where I got into development deals, do that as well. But yeah,
let's pay the bills, Joe, and then we get into Todd. Pay the bills, mate.
I don't really have many bills. This is just a podcast.
Oh, that's what you say.
The amazing thing with commercial property investing is that in most cases it's cash flow positive from day one, which means that you can drive those profits towards paying down the debt. There are instances with commercial property investing where you can actually have the property pay itself off over 10 years, which is absolutely crazy. With commercial property, you get massive net yields, so you can expect anywhere between 6 to 10%. And as we've seen in the current boom, these properties not only provide large cash flow, they do certainly grow wildly in value too. Now, with big rewards comes some risk, and this is why you should de-risk your investment as much as possible. And the way you do that is with expert due diligence. And this is why we highly recommend people hire professionals to help you along in your investing journey. Steve Polisi of Polisi Property is one such expert. Being a chartered mechanical and structural engineer in a past life, Steve draws on his analytical and mathematical skills to do that expert due diligence for you. With 6 years experience in the space, Steve has over 1,200 property transactions under his belt. He's the guy you want in your corner, crunching the numbers and finding the best properties in the best locations, along with ensuring that you avoid the mistakes. Steve has actually even written the book on commercial property investing in Australia, and not only is it a bestseller, I believe it to be the most comprehensive in commercial property investing on the market today. He's been generous enough to give us a massive discount for our audience of 50%. So use the code OZPROP, click the link below, get a copy today, and start learning and getting on your commercial property investing journey.
Good idea.
I believe it's now also 100% off. So somebody check that out and see if Steve has changed the code and send to me. I don't encourage people to message me, but also Tone, good to have you on. I haven't seen you around OzProp in a while, so we've got some people who haven't sort of checked it out. So everybody's flooding in for Mr. Todd Sloan. So who is the man, the myth, the pizza legend in front of us? So he is an award-winning real estate former sales agent, but I think you did sell a few properties in your time. You are a professional renovator, so I wonder what qualifies making somebody a professional renovator. Is this is it? You're a host of Australia's fastest growing. I think you're probably one of Australia's top property investment podcasts, Pizza and Property. And is your Australia's Home Buying Guide, is that a bestseller, Todd, or does that get to?
I don't think it's a bestseller, but I probably shouldn't have corrected you and just nodded and took a drink. So ask me again, Jeff.
Is it a bestseller, Todd?
Wow, congratulations on that, Todd.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got on a whole bunch of other podcasts on it as well, like the Property Couch. Those guys had you on, and I think you're on Elephant in the Room as well. I think you were those guys. Or at least Mike Mortlock as well. So how good is that? So Todd, but more importantly though, you are, I suppose, aspiring to help Aussies invest more diligently in property. So how good is that? Like, how good is your career change?
It's a lot more fun. I did convince myself that I was just gonna make content and like play on Canva and in like DaVinci Resolve when I left, and then realized a few months in, it's like, oh shit, I'm actually running a business here, and then a few more plates needed to start getting spun. But it's a good change. I'm really happy that I had the sales career for as long as I did, but I don't think my heart was in it the same way anymore. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, there you go. So Todd, we've gotten to the people's favorite part of the show where we ask you, Mr. Todd Sloan, what is your favorite property?
Well, okay. Like one that I've bought, or just any structure in the world.
I couldn't help myself. I thought I'd throw in that sort of what is your favorite pizza, but yeah. There you go.
Okay, I feel like I've ruined your joke by being too logical. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
What's your favorite purchase that you've made? It doesn't have to be the unit block, obviously, but what's your favorite purchase that you've done?
Favorite purchase would actually probably be the little unit that I bought. It just did very, very well. It was just a good little reno. But
Was that the first one you bought as well?
No, that was like the fifth. But the first one that I actually ever bought was probably the funnest. That was an apartment on North Terrace in Adelaide. Stupidest purchase I ever made, but definitely had a lot of fun memories there.
A lot of lessons learned. Learned.
So what's made that little unit your favorite purchase?
Because I got to a point with renovation where I understood it a lot deeper. I was able to get in and get out a lot quicker. I would have actually been able to do it even quicker if I hadn't had a few incidents with my back that threw me out for about a month. But it was a point of kind of that turning point of confidence of going, let's just buy this. Like I was negotiating another deal when I bought. I was actually painting a wall of another property and negotiating the deal at the same time. And it's when that confidence kind of kicks in that you're like, no, I just understand these numbers. I understand what I'm doing, and not from an arrogance point of view, but from a genuine understanding. Being able to move through it quickly when all that fear goes is wonderful. Like I remember the first reno property that I ever bought. I still remember standing there and just going like, what the fuck have I just done? Like I sold my apartment that I loved to buy this like piece of crap 3 hours out of Adelaide, like in the dusty bush. And I actually got so overwhelmed. I went to the bottler and bought a 6-pack and just sat down and started drinking until I felt better. And then about 3 beers in, I was like, all right, I should probably start renovating now. And then just got to work. But yeah, it was that complete juxtaposition from so unconfident and just like, what have I done, to let's get this done and make a lot of equity, a lot of cash flow. And yeah, I think that's probably why it's my favorite.
And what it kind of gave you that, how do you get that confidence? What is it that ticked you over the edge to feel comfortable and confident in making that happen?
Just lots of lessons, learning as much as I could. So it was learning from not only my own renos, but also going to friends' renos, reading as much as I could. Like it was just that combination of everything came together. Like I had a similar thing. I remember I used to learn languages in the car just for something fun to do on like a drive to work. And none of my friends speak anything but English. Like we don't. English is a blessing and a curse, because you go over to Europe and it's normal to be trilingual or a polyglot, but it's just not here. And I still remember the first time I went to France and started actually speaking French. There was just this little click of like, all of these lessons every single day for the past 3 years have actually like amounted to something. They mean something. And there's almost this like cool feeling of accomplishment that comes with that. So now that I'm actually saying it out loud, it's probably not the property that's my favorite. It's the fact that I felt like I reached a different, like a level that's actually probably my favorite. And I've just attached that to the property.
Je m'appelle Jeff, Monsieur.
Very profound. Give it up. Give it up, Jeff. Give it up, Jeff.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Are we? Anyway, so that's a great story. Like I think that dovetails quite nicely into we're talking here about unit blocks. So how did you decide that you were going to go, and what were the steps that led you to say, I'm going to now buy a unit block? Like what education?
I just finished a house and granny deal, and I really liked that. That one did a really good job as far as cash flow, capital growth, renovation, like all of the boxes that I wanted to tick were ticked. But there were huge delays in building. Building costs started getting, and still have, a certain amount of uncertainty to them. And I didn't like that. And I looked at it and I thought, well, if I'm not sure if I'm leaving yet or not, if I do end up leaving, I want to max out my borrowing capacity as much as I can, but still doing it safely, like we said, from the cash flow perspective. And I thought, well, if I try and do another like house and granny or another 2 house and grannies, then again, that'll be good, but what if it doesn't complete for another 12 months? And I do actually decide, no, it's really time to leave. I'm stuck. I can't walk off. So what other options do I have? And I started looking into duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes. And then it just kind of made sense. I actually stumbled across it because not a lot of people know this, but when you go to realestate.com, you can actually keep scrolling down with it's like, do you want a unit, a house, a block of land? There's actually block of units down there. Yeah. And not everyone knows that because you've got to scroll a little bit. But the thing that I think led me onto it was actually just a bit of a mistake. And I randomly saw, I think it was more realistically like a house sharing kind of setup. But technically, like the headline was like block of units. And I read it and I was like, that's pretty cool. And it was rubbish. Like I didn't actually want that one, but it just planted the seed of maybe I could do that. And that's when I started actually looking into it deeper.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It kind of, what you're telling me is like your granny flat deals weren't going to be a fit for you. And it sounds like they were a lot cheaper for you to get into. Like you could have got 2 or 3 of those and you're like, actually, no, I should be buying a more expensive property to max out my borrowing capacity to allow me. So rather than buying 3 deals at once, I'm buying 1 block of units. Is that kind of how you were thinking about it?
Kind of. No, it wouldn't have actually been heaps cheaper. It would have actually been slightly more expensive to get a couple of them. Okay. Not by much, but by a little bit. So call it
time frame.
Yeah,
exactly. It was the time frame that really changed things, because and the lack of control. It's one of the things I like about renos is whilst you don't control everything perfectly, you still actually that's let me say that again. Whilst you don't have complete control over everything, you still have majority control over the situation.
Yeah, that's very right. Like even developing anything that involves development or approval from council, you don't have. And we've seen, well, I've seen this recently over in WA. They've recently changed the medium density zoning so that they've made it quite hard to do a triplex sort of site unless you've got sort of 800 plus, even 900 plus square meters. So sort of if you're planning on doing that, and that's to your point about you don't have anywhere near as much control, even the granny flat, like they can, like Logan Council introduced that 15K construction, 15K service fee or whatever it is. And it's about lending as well, Todd.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I had that with them and then had some, this is just a funny side note, different property now. Now we're talking about the house in Granny, and it's actually 16K. And then I had to pay it, which was a bit of a surprise because it just jumped up. And then when I paid it on the invoice that they'd sent through. And I just rang them up. I'm like, look, I'm going to give you 10 grand. I'll give you the next 6 in like a month or whatever it was. And then when I gave it, then they still gave me a late payment fee. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? This doesn't make sense. And then they're like, no, you haven't paid it. I'm like, yeah, I have. I've absolutely paid. Showed them the receipts, everything. They're like, nah. I'm like, yep. Anyway, long story short, this has been back and forth with the Logan City Council for a while now. They ended up finally finding the $10,000. It was lost in some account because they'd changed around some system. So there's just $10,000 that I was then getting charged back interest on. But so yeah, just make sure whenever you make a payment that's that large, keep some very good records of it, because they were adamant that I had not made the payment.
Jesus. Wow. That's a council.
Yeah, that was good.
So this block of units. So how did you get to the particular area? Like, were you looking at you just went straight blocks of units and were saying New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, anywhere? I don't care where the block of units is. But how did you think about the asset selection, like location selection for units? So
if I start with the entire country and just basically start knocking out areas, I didn't want South Australia because I didn't want to increase my land tax position here. And I didn't want WA purely because most of the blocks of units I even looked at just didn't stack up from what I could find at the time. So it wasn't that I was against Perth or WA, but it just wasn't there at the time. New South Wales was out, even regional New South Wales, the numbers didn't stack up for what I wanted. Yeah, yield-wise. I did actually find it in Victoria, but I wasn't a fan, especially with some of the legislative changes over there. which then led me pretty much to Queensland. I didn't even consider NT, and I did look down at Tassie, but Tassie the yields just weren't there at all. So then when I started looking at
2020, Todd, or 2021?
2022.
Oh, 22. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought it was 2021. There you go.
No, I think it was August. So I reckon I probably had it for about a year now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you just purchased the last time you come on the show.
Yeah. So it was, about then. And so then I started looking at different places around Queensland, just started leaning on the network that I've got throughout, like Pizza and Property, and started giving a few friends in the industry a call and saying, this is what I'm looking at doing. These are the towns I'm looking at. What do you think? And it was like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. This is pretty good. And yeah, then ended up started basically planting the seed in a few different places. I was looking at mainly Townsville, Rockhampton, and Cairns, and started calling around different agents and building relationships. And over the course of, it probably only took about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, like 2 months probably at the most. Actually, no, maybe a bit longer, but either way, it wasn't very long. It was a few months of just making phone calls pretty much every single day, because I was still in the office, and I think everyone just thought I was calling up like selling houses normally, but I was actually calling up like trying to buy them.
Oh, like sell them like hotcakes today, Todd. Like making all these calls, doing deals. Look at you go.
Yeah.
I'll give you a rate.
Yeah, and then eventually, actually, it was Sean Craig that ended up actually giving me the lead. You guys have had Sean on the show before, I think.
Oh, Sean Happy.
The Airbnb specialist.
Yeah,
Sean Happy Craig. I have him in my phone. I think it's because you shared the contact with me.
Yeah, that's all I saved in mine.
Yeah,
the dude's always smiling. But Sean, I've actually got a bit of history with anyway. But so it's just, and I just kept calling him. So just following the exact strategy that I tell people whenever they ask, and just kept following that. And then I ended up getting a call from Sean. It actually happened to be, I think, just after we'd finished that unit project. Actually, no, it mustn't have been then. But we're going on a holiday either way. Something was happening with Bianca and I. It was like, all right, time for us to like chill out. We've been into ultra work mode for a little while. And just as I got off the plane in Melbourne, I got a call from him saying, hey man, got this unit block. It's actually not mine. Another colleague's just listed it. If you're going to act super quick, I reckon you're in with a shot. If not, they're going to take photos in like 48 hours. And it's like, okay, cool. So I talked to B, and naturally, being the wonderful, understanding partner that she is, she was like, yep, no, I know how important this is. So sat down in the hotel room, did all of the numbers. And I think we ended up just getting pizza delivered instead of going out for dinner. Crunched all the numbers, worked everything out together. And then it was like, okay, cool, let's put in an offer. And ended up putting in an offer, a little bit of a tennis match, I think, over the next kind of day or so, and then got it accepted.
Can we take a step? I know Joe was going to ask probably a cracking question, but I want to take a step back because we've sort of this all sort of seemed to happen pretty quickly. But you said a few things in your thing there that you leaned out to a few people and asked a few questions. What sort of considerations should people be looking at when buying a unit block? What kind of things did you find out in your research?
Well, it's going to depend on what they actually really want as well. Like for me, the considerations were I wanted it to be in good enough condition that it could rent out straight away, but bad enough condition that it was still a renovator. So it was kind of that borderline that I was looking for. I also wanted it all on one title. So that way, if I ever wanted to, I could split them later. But it wasn't just that, because I was buying it mainly as a cash flow play. I wanted to make sure that I didn't actually have all of the extra rates, because having them on separate titles is cool if you ever need to like start liquidating, but it's not cool if all of a sudden you've got all of these extra rates that then affect your cash flow. And
beaten into it,
yeah, apart from that, for me, those were the main ones. Then it's really all just the standard kind of property considerations, the same thing that you go for, really. I guess with the exceptions of things like staircases, like external staircases, I don't really think of that kind of stuff too much normally, especially in Adelaide. Maybe you would actually up in Queensland, Queenslanders.
Yeah, but, very expensive. I had to replace my stairs. It cost me $12,000 just to do one side, but to do two sides. So it definitely needs to be a consideration when you've got a unit block and you've got like 4 sets of different stairs up into each unit.
Mine was a set on each side, so I got two units down the bottom and 2 up the top. So there was stairs on both sides.
Yeah. Was there any issues with that kind of stuff when you were looking at it?
Yes. So, and I actually bought this sight unseen. So I had, actually, I think you even drove past it, Joe. I think you just randomly were up there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this was after you purchased it, like not before.
Yeah. Okay, before. Or after, sorry. So I had a building inspection done. I also had a stupid amount of photos and videos sent through as well. But really it was leaning on a lot of the building inspection and then also some feet on the ground actually having a look for me, because making sure.
Oh,
sorry,
you okay, Todd?
Me. I don't know. Hopefully.
Yeah.
If anyone's behind me, they shouldn't be here, so please let me know. Anyway, I can't remember if I locked the front door or not. I just this could be the best live. Where was I now? Now I'm just thinking of that movie Halloween. Where was I? That's right. People were looking for me.
Yeah.
Photos, yeah. So went through all that, but this was still when COVID was around. So I ended up actually catching COVID. I dodged it like Muhammad Ali for years and then finally got it. And I was proper out. Like I was in bed for like a whole week, but sick for like 2 to 3 weeks. And I remember I had to actually negotiate the deal with COVID in bed. So after I got the building report out, we ended up having to redo the entire roof. So it now has a brand new roof on it. But I got them to meet me halfway and do a cash back on that. And I was just lucky because I had quotes of like $40,000 and $50,000 to redo the roof, which that's not that crazy. But I ended up getting it done for $22,000 to get the whole roof redone. So I thought, got to jump on that, because it wasn't like, oh, a bit of silicon should be right. It was like, nah, man, like this roof is done.
Yeah, and this is a long-term asset for you, so you need to make sure it's done. So how did you negotiate that? Like, what did that look like? Because can you talk about how you structured the offer to be able to get that discount and how you negotiated that discount as well?
Absolutely. So it's always subject to building and pest inspection, and especially in Queensland. So a lot of the time in South Australia, heaps of agents would just say, get it done in the cooling off period. BMP clauses are a little bit different in Queensland. The one thing that I did actually find that I didn't actually like about this was part of the negotiation was actually done through the conveyances to the agent, which could have actually been good. I don't like. Yeah, and the reason I just don't like it is because then if you ever pick up partially where they left off, or if an agent ever quizzes you, if they're good at what they do and they can walk you into things and just get key pieces of information. And I didn't personally like that, but I was also in a bit of a state where I didn't really have the time to push back, or the energy to push back, really. So basically ended up getting half the roof paid for, and the stairs ended up getting fixed because there were some issues with the stairs and they didn't want to budge on price. And I genuinely just wanted the stairs fixed. So I basically just said, make sure they're sound and give me the certs to say it, and I'm good.
Yeah. And so you said that you got quotes for $50,000. Did you say, hey, here's a quote for $50,000, give us 50%, so it was $25,000, and then you got it done at $22,000? Or was it 50% of whatever you got done?
No. So the only written quote that we ended up getting was the 22, which they actually got, which was why I was like, nah. And when I ended up calling calling other roofers, they were all like, yeah, I can get out there to properly quote it in like 2 weeks. They would only give me verbal quotes, which were like 40 to 50 grand. So when it came to the negotiation, because I had nothing in writing, all we could go off was the 22. But I ended up calling that guy and just basically holding him to it and saying, I will actually give you the job. I need to know that this isn't some bullshit quote that he's your mate and you're just saying some low number. Like, can I put a deposit down now? And so I put a deposit down on the work and we locked everything in. It turned out it was completely legitimate.
There you go. I like your out of the box thinking there, Todd. It's just sort of like a lot of people will be like, oh, well, yeah, that's a great quote, but then that sort of, but yeah, you sort of, yeah, I'm sure you did the checks on this tradesperson, but you sort of you made it happen. You locked it in.
You removed all the risk. Like it sounds like you were just at every single point. You're like, here's some risk here. I need the stairs fixed. I can't. And were you willing to walk away if they said, hey, the stairs are going to remain as they are? Because you still have 14 days, right? And we're talking about these negotiations on day 10 or something like that. Were you willing to walk away or?
No, because the numbers still stacked up.
So it was a win either way from the sound of it. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what people, I think, always have to remember with a negotiation is have exactly what Joe's talking about, is that walk away figure. Because if it doesn't make sense, don't agree. You need to leave, because it's one of my favorite sayings is don't ever fall in love with the deal, because it'll never love you back. But you also need to make sure that you're not too proud that if you don't get what you want, you walk away from a deal that works. I met with someone just recently that was talking about this, and they were saying that what was it? I got outbid at an auction and I could have paid X, but I didn't want to do it. I was like, well, was it not a deal? And they're like, no, it was still a deal. I'm like, well, then why didn't you do it? It's like, oh, because I set a limit. So you set a limit below where it was a deal. That does, like, if the numbers stack up here, then here's where the limit is. Like, it's just, but what it just came down to was it was more of a pride thing, an ego thing, and we've all got it. Like, yeah, we all have it. But don't let it get in the way of actually getting where you want to go and profiting.
Yeah.
So because that's the sort of thing that will happen again in the next deal, and then in 2 years' time, whatever it is, you'll still be without a property.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to. What are some of the reasons? What are some of the pros you sort of see in buying a unit block? Anyway, let's kind of unpack those. I think that'd be interesting for people to hear why you sort of went down that path.
So the speed of being able to acquire was very attractive, because if I went out to actually buy 4 different properties, that would have taken longer, which, I mean, depends on what your time frame is. It's like you can fly Air Asia to Europe for like $1,000, but you need 12 stopovers and it takes you 6 weeks or whatever. If you don't care about time, good deal. But that wasn't my story. Don't quote me on those numbers. You can't fly to Air Asia that cheap. But anyway, but what I'm getting at though is, for me, that was really important. The other thing that was really appealing as well was actually the challenge of renovating a 4-pack. I really like the idea, and this is why I still wanted a renovator, because currently, like, I bought it for $770. It's now worth around sort of $105. Once it's actually renovated, then it will be able to, and I'm just talking very simple, like cosmetics. It should be more around that kind of into the 1.2s, and that hopefully that's where there should be some decent equity that I can pull out. But right now, even if it was worth $5 million, I can't pull the equity out yet. So to me, that's why I haven't put any money into it in that sense. But the downside to that, and this is something that I'll share, is that this is the only property I've ever bought and not renovated straight away. Everything else I've purchased and it's just gone straight into it. Or give or take, there was one other that I had to see the lease out for 3 months or something like that. The amount of stupid little maintenance bills that I've had have been very frustrating, and they're normal. So most people might just go, oh yeah, that's property. But for someone that renovates property, it's like, that's something that would have cost me $200 to do. But now I've got to get a handyman out there who now all of a sudden charges $100 an hour. And to do all these things that I just think, like, I could have done that, or I could have paid a trade to go and do all of these 20 different jobs at once in a really cost-effective manner, opposed to, like, here's all these little spots and dots of just random things. Like even things like the wardrobe runner. It's like it had a flat spot and it needed to get fixed. And all of a sudden that's like $120. When it's like, come, that's $6 at Bunnings. Like, and do you know what I mean? That lots of those things came up, which is something that I feel whingy saying that now, but it's a very first world problem to have. But nonetheless, when you're trying to control an asset for its profitability, it's still a problem that's worth considering.
So Yeah, that's so frustrating. I can imagine just trying to, especially as a renovator, seeing all these little issues, and then, oh no, I want to be there. So that is the plan, is it? It's you're going to go over there and renovate the property when you do the renovation. That is the way to do it.
Yeah, still got to work out best way to do it cash flow wise as well. But I enjoyed taking on projects and also doing them quickly and doing them quicker and quicker and quicker. So when I first started, I pretty much did everything apart from electrical. And then it was like everything apart from electrical and plumbing. And then it was like, well, now I just do some of the stuff. And it's kind of slowly pulling back further and further, where I'll still do the work, but it's also just about being there to time manage and to make sure it all gets done quick. Like the other one that we did in Queensland, we turned it around in 10 days. Like there's no way we could have done that if we weren't there physically doing some of the work ourselves as well.
Project management as well.
Correct. Yeah.
One thing I'm interested in is how you came up with this price, because we're starting to fall in. We're in residential. Unit blocks are considered residential, but then they can also fall into commercial and commercial lending. Can you talk to us about pricing, how you came up with the price, how you now know that this new price exists, and if it's tied to like a commercial asset tied to the rent, or if it's just like every normal house out there and it's just a supply and demand type of situation? But
so new price, had a couple of agents tell me that that's realistically what I'd get for it. Basically I was just asking. So I have no intention of selling it. It's always nice to know roughly where you're sitting. An actual valuation would probably come in a little bit different. But again, because I'm not pulling out the equity, I don't really care what the bank thinks about it. It's just more so about where would it approximately be sitting. As far as coming up with the price to offer, I simply just looked at the yield. That was the biggest thing that I was after. So if we look at where are we here?
Questions come in. How do you do the numbers and conclude it's a deal? So kind of what you're talking to now.
Yeah. Okay. So the first time when I did this, let me actually just move this back here.
That's San as well. Thanks for asking that question, San. He's got the numbers. That's a really great question. Yeah, he probably does. Or is that the Suburbs Finder one that you got?
Yeah, I'm just uploading it now. Give me 2 secs.
Yeah, okay. I think the question, these type of assets typically they're going to be investors that'll buy them. So it's quite a yield driven. I'd say it is residential, but it's arguably commercial. So it's like a bit of a mix of the two. But
yeah, you've got to decide at what point you want to walk away, right? What is your walk away?
Like what
is your walk away yield?
Yeah, it's anything less than like a 7 cap or whatever. But yeah.
Well, but that's also on a gross yield percentage rather than a net yield, right?
Net yield.
Like in unit blocks, you don't talk about. Well, I mean, don't necessarily talk about net yields. It's just talked about more in a residential standpoint. So, yeah, okay.
So did you want me to actually share my screen,
or
do you want to just talk?
Definitely, yeah, go for it. Yeah,
Eric,
do people want to see numbers?
Yeah. Give me 2 shakes. How do I do it?
Think about to draw it on the chalk at the whiteboard behind you, Todd. People still use whiteboards, man.
I could.
These days, you get the electronic one.
I think we have that.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So purchase price $770.
Yep.
Average capital growth, that's by the by because we're talking cash flow right now. Now, vacancy rate 0%. I'm going to explain this in a little bit more detail because I know there's probably a few people going, hold on a second, that's not right. It is.
Yeah.
Now, I'll explain how. Now, as far as loan, I've got this down as 100% lend because it was actually a 70-30. However, it was 30% was equity that I used. So if I'm actually going to work out the cash flow on it, I still need to pay back the equity once it's extracted. So really, I do my numbers on that being 100% lend. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yep. So the rent per week, and they're rented out at $360 per unit. So it's $1,440 per week. Okay. Council rates are at 10,000. Pardon?
That must be all right. I mean, $360 unit. Gee, that's a good little rental return.
Is this what you used at purchase? Like, is this what it was when you were buying it?
No. So the only difference was it was $350 a week then. So it's at $1,400. So 14. So they've gone up $10 a week.
Ooh.
So not a huge amount. So yeah, you're right. So I should actually change the $40 there. Council rates, $850 a month. It's about $10,000 a year. Actually, I think it's just a smidge under. Strata, now I just put away that. There is no strata, but I use this whenever I use the cash flow calculator as just more of a $1,000 a year roughly as a maintenance buffer. Now and this is where I'm actually kind of wrong with the numbers a little bit, because that's what I normally allow after I've renovated a property. So because these ones haven't been renovated, there's been more maintenance than that.
A little bit more.
Okay. Now, water, I do charge on water to tenants, but still always allow for a little bit of water here. Insurance, this is a huge kicker as well. And actually, no, we talked about this. I can't mention the name, but get in touch if you are actually serious about buying this, because I'm happy to pass this on unless you guys are happy for me to say it. But the difference with insurance was massive. I called up one of the more known property insurers, and it was literally triple the price. It was $10,000 a year, which actually almost made me walk away. And then
you can mention it if you want, Todd. It's not a negative, as long as it's not.
Sure insurance.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah, Terry Sure.
No, not Terry Sure.
No, not Terry Shear.
Sure insurance. SURE, Sure Insurance. Okay, they only do far north Queensland, and that's what they specialize in. But then they give you all of these different discounts for different things that you do. So I got 20% off. I think it was the Cyclone Premium or something like that, because I'd replaced the roof with a new roof. Anyway, it came down to just under $4,000, because at first it was like $5,000.
It's unreal. $4,000.
Yeah, massive difference.
Got 4.6 rating on Google. That's ridiculous. Like, for insurance company, what's going on? They must be doing some good.
Yeah, and we'll talk about their service in more detail after you find out about the nappies in the toilet, but that's another story. So interest from loan. Originally, I was looking at around 3.5%. Now, this was 12 months ago, you got to remember as well, when 3.5% was considered high, but that's roughly where we're sitting. So estimated weekly cash flow after expenses, and this is also interest only, was now $513 a week. So I looked at that and I thought, well, it's a 9.4% yield. I was personally looking for anything in the kind of mid to high eights. So when I looked at this and went, okay, this was 9, thumbs up, this works well. And again, this is why I said, like, in answer to your question before, Joe, even if it was a no on the stairs and the roof and everything, it's like the numbers still looked good. So changing this now, so we're adding $40, and now we're adding this to more like
7.5% roughly.
Well, I was going to say I think it's 6.9. Well, not 9.5. Jesus, that's scary.
Oh,
let's try that again. I think it's at 6.9 at the moment. It's probably 7. It changes too much, but we're still just positive cash flow. But realistically, I look at this as, if it was a normal purchase, this would still be negative cash flow. Now, the reason that I can say, circling back to 0% vacancy rates, and you probably also notice you got a keen eye, I skipped over property management as well, because I actually rented out to a government agency. And so they actually have what's called a head lease on it. And so they actually guarantee the rent, pay 1 month in advance, and whether the property is vacant or not, they continue to pay every single month. If any malicious damage happens on the property, they pay for it. If it's general maintenance, wear and tear kind of stuff, then it's fair enough, then it's on me. The benefit to this is there's no property management side of it, and also there's no vacancy rates. The downside to it is, well, let's just say it's self-explanatory, but I felt that the risk was enough to manage, especially the cash flow side of things.
Yeah, those numbers are unreal. So you've gone from 6.9% and you're still cash flow positive $50 a week.
Just a smidge. I don't know if it counts, but yeah.
But you didn't lock in the loan at a 2-year interest.
That was actually kind of frustrating. I was literally, I think it was 2 days too late. And then when I was talking to my broker, they were like, Todd, you actually don't service now for the new lock-in interest rates because they jumped up like 1% or something like that. And he's like, I actually can't get you enough money at the new lock-in. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. So it is what it is.
So how much does adding extra I guess on those numbers, if you decided to say, hey, you know what, 770 is not gonna change it. It's gonna have to be 780 or 790 or like, what was your kind of walk away yield and number for that deal? Because you got it for 770 by the looks of things. But what was your kind of walk away number, and how did you? Yeah,
I don't remember what the exact number was, but from then the walk away is more so around comparables, because then I also look at it and think, what else could I get with my money? Like, what are the other options on the market? You got to remember, this was a much hotter market at the time as well. So hence why I was doing everything I could to buy something off market, because I knew that if this actually went to market, chances are it would have sold for a lot more, possibly would have even sold in the eights. It's just stupidity. Is it worth there at that time? No. But people were just paying overs just to secure anything at that time. And that was exactly what I was trying to avoid. But looking at other properties, it's why I probably would have been happy, like I said, still paying what I paid and not getting any kind of a discount, because if I walked away, the plan B didn't really look better.
Yeah. It still didn't. Where are you going to get a 9.6% yield? Where else are you going to get it? Now, the government agency that you were talking about there, that's renting the property, was that preempted? Did you know that and think about that before you went ahead and bought the unit? Can you talk to that a little bit? Because I know when we spoke about it, before, it was a little bit of a secret Todd Sloan source. But
it's not so much that, but no, well, it's more so. Jeff and I had a little bit of a yarn about this, but it's got to do with a few other bits and pieces that I probably won't discuss, and out of respect as well. But it's something that I considered before I actually started. So I knew about this, and I knew about a few different kinds of schemes, and I looked at all of these different strategies that you could cash flow higher and have a bit more security, and was looking at what I actually needed to put in capital wise. And so I looked into different like NDIS things, and it's just the cash flow for those off the charts. It's insane. But the amount of money that needs to go into it and the specialty that goes into it, it's just so different. Where the thing that was appealing for this is I needed to change literally nothing about the property. It's just give us a habitable property.
There's less aggravation, which I mean, Joe, you'd know this, like making the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the most amount of upside and the least amount of aggravation. I think I butchered that, Steve Ignite, but close enough. So I think, Todd, you just didn't want the aggravation of having to do that extra kind of thing, even though it would have given you a greater return or better return.
Pretty much. And like when I found out about it, it was actually Sean Craig that told me, and I was like, why doesn't everyone do this? And I think his short answer was like, it's because it's not attractive. It doesn't sound cool to brag to your friends how you rent out government housing. Yeah.
And what type of asset? Because I think about like the damages and things like that can come up. What is the actual makeup of the house? Because if you've got, gyprock throughout it, it's going to not be as hard wearing as something that's just a brick, solid, big brick thing. What does it look like? We don't need to see pictures of it, but what is the makeup of it?
Big brick.
Yeah. Big brick, just brick. Looks obviously looks nice and safe. It's got some windows.
Set off sparkler bombs in there all day. Nothing's happening. She's sturdy.
I wanted to I love the engagement that we're getting in the comments. So keep dropping the comments and questions, and you're watching later on YouTube, drop us a like, give us all those good things. Somebody said you haven't allocated. Did we cover that, or wear and tear that we're making negative?
That was $1,000 a year. So that was the part that said strata. So that's what I allocated. So it was the $4,200 for the wear and tear.
You went.
Can we talk about the cons with this type of asset? Like, what are the big cons you see?
Cons that I see.
I don't see any.
You, but Todd, do you want me?
I want to hear yours. What are you thinking?
Well, I suppose for me, it's about Reese. I mean, you're not saying you're going to sell it, but you're only selling to an investor. So you're not selling to an owner occupier, which to me, you can still see capital growth, but you may not. And somebody could counter that con as well. But I think for me, it's only investors going to buy it, so they're going to buy it purely based on yield and rental return. So if the rent doesn't continue to increase, then your capital growth. So and it's also financing. Like if you didn't get cash out elsewhere, you'd probably be able to max. What would the max LVR? Probably 70% LVR, I think.
70%.
Maybe
That's yeah, it was 70. And like you think about that, that's whatever that was, like $230,000 or roughly something along those lines. It's a bit of money to have to put down as a deposit. But you're right. As far as the resale, totally agree. But I wouldn't sell it all as one. If I was going to sell it, that's where I would split it up and sell them off. But yeah, if I was to sell them as one, you're absolutely right. That's a big negative.
And one of the other considerations, I think, that is the timing of when you put this in your portfolio. So can you kind of talk to that? Like why, I mean, we kind of talked to why you went down this cash flow route. But how did you think about this in the grand scheme of your entire portfolio? Because I guess if I'm an investor, I'm like, why is everyone putting these things in the middle to the end of their portfolio? I want them straight away. I'm just going to go buy it straight away, rather than going down the residential route and building up a asset base. So how do you think about that, or how did you think about that?
Well, I think it's really important if you're starting out not to compare someone else's chapter 10 with your chapter 1, because it's about not jumping forward in the game too far. So if I have started with something like this, then the general maintenance, the actually being able to look after the properties.
What a freak you out.
Yeah, it could get overwhelming very quickly to go from 0 to 4. Like, I don't have kids yet, but I'd imagine there'd be a huge difference having one kid or having quadtuplets or quad whatever they are, or triplets. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Just imagine nappy story. Think of all that. What's that nappy story that?
Oh mate, the week I took possession, yeah, I had the Sparky knock on the door, and he's like, "Oh mate, can't get into Unit 1. But by the way, there's a whole bunch of water. It really stinks. It's coming out the door." I'm like, "Oh, this isn't good. Can you take photos? Can you see in?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, try and see in." And he took a few photos. I seriously think you should get someone down here. It's like actually coming out of the door, like flowing. I'm like, "Oh, fantastic. That's definitely what you want to hear." Front door. Yeah, the front door. And then so get the photos down, call up property management or like the place. And then let's just say it looked like someone had just shaken tins of Milo all over the toilet, the passageway, all the way down to the kitchen. It's not good. And he sent me all these pictures, and I'm like, oh my god, like what have I just bought? Anyway, he cleans the whole thing up, and it turns out that apparently the lady above had been flushing nappies down the toilet, which had then blocked the toilet. So then the cistern was then broken because this was actually vacant, Unit 1. The cistern was broken on like the little auto filler. And so it just kept flowing and flowing. And instead of just going down and just wasting water, which obviously isn't good, but this way it didn't waste it. It collected it and shared it with the entire apartment, which was the insurance job, where sure, this is not a paid advertisement, but pretty good to deal with. Did take a little while, but all in all, they were all right.
Wow. Okay, that's very good. So that one question I have is, I guess, around the agency that is doing the property management. Isn't that more of a negligence type of thing rather than wear and tear? If someone flushes nappies down the toilets, not cool.
I'd literally taken possession of it that week. They hadn't actually started, like, as much as I had an agency, it had nothing to do with them. So that was
wow. Welcome to plumbing.
And that's I mean, to compare with my first property investment way back in the day, the first tenant I had literally moved out. They moved in and 2 days later they gave their notice to vacate. And yes, that was also, I was like daunted. I was like, crap, is this what property investing is about? Whereas compare that to having, like, you imagine you have 4 properties and there's just, you increase your chances that something might go wrong. You might just say, well, what have I gotten myself into here? Property investing is really tough. It doesn't work. It's too hard. And you might even sort of decide to sell based on, I mean, maybe you wouldn't, but yeah, that's the sort of challenges you can face getting into that type of asset.
It's also, you need a lot more capital on hand, because all of a sudden you need to paint. You're painting a massive structure. You need to fix stairs. You need to fix 2 lots of stairs. You need to fix doors. You need to fix, 4 doors plus the internal ones. And you need to do plumbing.
Water
services, air conditioning.
Yeah, and they'll typically all kind of, you'll need to be and then you're like, well, I should just do, all the others are going to go. Like if the hot water service system goes here, maybe I should just replace them all and get a bulk discount and do the installation all at once, and it'll save me more money, and rather than doing 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe not. I don't know. If that works, it works.
I didn't. 2 of them died, and I just replaced the 2.
Yeah. It probably wouldn't be that much of a discount anyway.
It wasn't, but I did check.
Yeah. Okay, well, what we'll do is, if anyone's got any questions, throw them in the mix. We're going to jump to our final ad, and then what are we chatting to, Jeff?
Let's talk because I want to hear an update on. I mean, we could continue to go deep on this topic. Like I think there's so many different avenues we could go down. I'll have one question, but yeah, we'll even talk to Todd's goal to financial freedom, like where that's sort of sitting, because. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to sort of hear about how he's tracking and just any sort of blockers, but also opportunities he's finding. So let's do that after this.
Right. We'll be back after this short break.
There's nothing worse than going into a situation unprepared, especially when that situation is purchasing one of the most expensive assets of your life against a trained property expert in the form of a real estate agent. It's a scary thought, but it is a skill that can be taught. Do you want to learn how to become fully prepared when buying a property so you can get out there, buy your dream home or investment property without the fear of actually messing it up? Scott Agate, the founder and expert property negotiator at Hello House, has been helping people buy their properties by stepping in and negotiating with the agents and saving his clients tens of thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars. Scott has now decided to share all that he's learned over the past 28 years in real estate, so you can go out there and do the exact same thing on how to find a property, analyze that property, negotiate on that property, and transact on it to get the best results. He's created the Get Buyer Ready course, which is a step-by-step guide on how you too can become an expert property negotiator. It's the easy way of how you can avoid all of these agent games and get the best purchase price on that dream home or your investment property. The course is in short bites for busy people with no fluff at all. Just all the information you need to get buyer ready and secure that next property with confidence at the best price. Scott has been kind enough to give our community a massive discount with the link below. Sign up today before you even think about putting an offer on that next property, and it will be one of the best decisions you ever make.
Yes, it will be.
That sounds like it's part of the end of the ad.
Sounds like a challenge.
So are you Darth Vader? Like, are you going to tell me that? I hope you're not.
I'm a bit sick.
It's not mathematically possible.
Sick,
but no. So an interesting thing that popped up, and somebody asked, and I think it's more generally about properties rather than. Oh, here we go. Somebody asked, "What's your favorite pizza?" Who was that asked that? That was Brendan.
What was the other question? The more pertinent one.
Oh, I got sidetracked. Thoughts on getting how to get similar off-market deals. So I think you might have San. This was who asked this. She's asked a heap of them, but Todd sort of unpacked this. But do you want to sort of recap in a couple of bullet points how you sort of did that, Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. So just basically reverse engineered everything that I did as an agent to find listings, because you don't need, well, actually, when I say reverse engineered, I did exactly the same thing, but with the exact opposite intention. Beforehand, it was, I want to find someone's house to sell, because that's what an agent's job is. People think when you're an agent, your job is just selling the houses. But if you don't pull in the stock to sell, you don't have a job for very long. So I just pretty much put those skills to use, which was, I didn't actually door knock simply because it was interstate. But otherwise, it's just prospecting, calling as many people as you can and continuously asking the questions. And if you get someone that you feel like you can strike up a little bit of a relationship with, grow the relationship, because that's what's going to make the biggest difference. And people don't see it, and I think they don't believe it because they don't experience it. But you know this, Joe. This is literally your job every day of the week. And I bet you so many of the deals that you'd get from clients would come from the hundreds and hundreds of phone calls that you've made to agents and relationships that you've built So eventually they just pick up the phone and go, oh, Joe, blah, 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 and give you a deal to check out. Are they all good? No. But you only need one. Well, you don't. You need a lot more than that. But when you're buying, when you're looking in off market for yourself, you just want to close that deal. It's not hard. It's just it's uncomfortable for a lot of people. Like I actually chatted with someone just recently about this, and a listener of the show, and we're having a bit of a chat. And I basically said that the thing for him that he was missing out on, because he was sending out heaps of letters, he was doing heaps of work, sounded like he was super dedicated, but he didn't want to do the door knocking side of things. He didn't want to do the prospecting side because it made him feel uncomfortable. And I said, totally understand that. It's not for everyone, but if you can make the calls, if you can knock on doors, one of the reasons it is so effective is because of that feeling of uncomfort that you have right now. You're not alone with that uncomfort. Most of the population would have that exact same feeling of uncomfort. So if you want to achieve something that most of the population never achieve, you need to start getting comfortable with things that make them uncomfortable, because that's usually where those things are hidden. So that's probably the advice that I would say for anyone that's wanting to really secure off-market deals. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable and build as many relationships with the key people as you can.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
It's kind of I love the quote. If you want to get what other people don't have, you have to do what other people won't do.
Yeah.
Or aren't willing to do, whatever. Yeah, you could throw any words in there, but something of that effect.
But when you say door knocking, you don't mean door knocking. You mean picking up the phone and calling, because that's a lot less stressful than going door to door. That's
no, I mean door knocking. No, door knock. You knock on doors. So I used to do that all the time when I was a real estate agent. I'd knock on the door. Knock. Okay. Drive from Tim. Say you're going, but just listed ABC 123 Street down the road. Just wanted to invite you to the first open. See if you want to check out what's happening in the neighborhood. And most people would be like, yeah. What do you
mean for like finding deals?
Absolutely. I wasn't actually doing that because I wanted to invite them to the open because I missed them. I was doing it because.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you meant for what investors can be doing now. Like,
investor can do that too. Yeah. Go. If you identify a unit block you want to buy, go and knock. I mean, maybe. The problem is the person living there is a renter, so that's the.
So not all the time, and maybe not for unit blocks, because you're right. Predominantly, these are going to be owned by investors. But there's nothing wrong with actually just knocking. And I feel like I have to put some kind of a safety disclaimer on this, because there were just certain things that I wouldn't do. Like I wouldn't knock on a house's door if there was a fence out the front that I actually couldn't see into or out of. And that actually came from when I was a little kid. You guys remember the MS Readathon? Did you ever have that when you were a kid?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there was the Premier's Reading Challenge as well up here in New South Wales. Yeah.
There you go. We didn't have that, but me and my little sister, we used to knock on all the doors around the neighborhood as like little 8-year-old kids. And I remember getting chased out of the yard by a giant Rottweiler one day. It scared the crap out of me. That stuck with me just as a safety thing. There's other sort of safety things as well that just don't be an idiot about it if you are going to do it. But
we don't do it at 8 o'clock at night. That's probably bad.
Exactly. Don't do it at dark. Yeah. If someone wearing a mask like answers the door, like probably don't go in. Like you just want to be smart about it. But I still believe though, and I want to make a video on this. You knock on enough doors, because this is how it would work as an agent. You would measure how many listings, like how many sales do you want to make? And so how many listings was that? Well, then how many appraisals would you need to do for that? Then how many phone calls would you need to do to get appraisals? And it's this measurable, it's basic sales. Anyone can do this. It's just crappy to do. And I think that's why most people don't do it.
Yeah. And one tip that I have is go onto real estate and search the agent, like the agent where you can click agent and see who does the highest volumes. Because I was going to do a post about this. There are different types of real estate agents. There are people that are doing high volume and churning and burning a lot of deals. And then there are people that are really solid performing agents that aren't going to do discounts, that aren't going to give you off market deals. And then there are other agents that are just kind of hand to mouth trying to get any deal across the line. So they're a little bit more willing to strike up a deal. So you're trying to get, I guess, the top people, the churn and burn model people, and then the bottom people as well, those bottom agents that are a little bit more loosey-goosey with deals. But
can I just say before we get off that point about and Joe, well, I'll make this quick. If you want to learn how to negotiate and get the off market things, watch last week's session with Scotty Agate. We talked about like building rapport, and rapport doesn't mean you have to be best mates to the agent. It's simply then about sort of appearing that you're serious about buying a property. You're not saying, oh, I'll apply for my finance in a week's time. It's like, no, I got my finance. I'm ready to go, ready to inspect this property and put an offer in a couple of hours' time. I'm here to make stuff happen. I'm here to do a deal, not I'll have to think about it for 3 days and I'll get back to you. And I've got to speak to my broker and speak to my cat down the road as well. All that sort of stuff.
I'm not sure if Scott touched on this, but one of the reasons for that as well, just to expand on the understanding of that, is when you list a property as an agent, if you say I'm going to bring buyers through off market, and then you call up the people that are wishy-washy. Oh, sorry, what was that, Jeff?
I was going to say, and then you don't do it. I mean, that would be a bit awkward, wouldn't it, for a start? But yeah.
It is, and it's happened to me before. And all of a sudden, the vendors are like, does this guy actually have buyers? Is he full of it? Like, is he even any good at what he does? Which is one of the big reasons why if you're making those calls, you're making to the people that you know are going to turn up, that you know are serious about buying, because you don't want to look like a jerk to your new clients, which are the vendors, the sellers.
100%. Yeah, totally agree. I think that too many people chat. Like, I mean, how many wasted calls did you have as an agent, Todd? Like, where it's like, oh, hey, I don't have finance. I'm interested in this property. I want to buy it. Well, it's going to sell in this weekend. So, like, how do you think about that person, like, when you were there? And what are some of the better questions that we can ask? I know we did the negotiation last week with Scott, but how do you, I don't know, we're back in your agent day. What were some good questions that people could ask to ping in your mind, this person's serious?
It wasn't so much about the questions that they'd ask. I think it was about how they came across with things like finance and things like knowing what they actually wanted. It's that wishy-washy buyer. If someone's like, oh, I think I want a house, but, maybe a unit, or, yeah, I really like Christie's, but, oh, actually, Manapara's not bad. And you're like, Jesus Christ, they're 60 Ks away from each other. Like, it's just, you kind of look at it and go, it's not the whole, like, come back to me when you're ready, but it's more so like, if you want this kind of opportunity, you have to be ready.
Yeah. But all it is just a lot of phone calls to real estate agents and finding the people that you kind of gel with and that have the listings. You don't really want to be wasting your time with an agent that isn't going to give you off market deals, and kind of chat to them about that. What kind of deals have you got? Have you got any? The most important question is, have you got anything coming up? And then being politely prodding that. Like, oh, actually, yeah, I just did an appraisal yesterday. Oh, well, tell me, what's the address? And they probably won't tell you the address. But
they'll give you a general description of what the property might be.
Exactly. Tell me about the property. And then, is the vendor willing to sell off market? Oh, actually, I haven't had that conversation with him. I'll go have a conversation with him. Are you ready to buy? I already told you I've got finance approved. I'm ready to buy this property today if we're ready to go. It's super easy. We don't mess about. We have, we'll do the pest and building during the cooling off period and we're ready to go. But yeah, okay. I like it. That's how you get them.
If you really want to show confidence, I've never actually had to do this, but if you really want to show confidence, and this is a bit arrogant, so be careful how you say this, but ask for their trust account details and say, I can wire the deposit right now if you want. And if you say it in conversation, but super calm, I've done that before just because they didn't think I was serious, and I didn't have to wire the deposit. And depending on what state you're buying in, you can't really do that anyway. But it's just more of a case of call my bluff. I will give you money right now.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a question that's come up twice. Low density blocks. Well, actually, do you recommend low density units? So I guess that's kind of what you've got here, isn't it? Low density unit being, less than a big complex. So I guess answers itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, if they mean low density is in buying one of the units in low density, my personal rule with that is if it's a deal, then like the unit that you asked for, the favorite one, that one's got like a 200 and something square meter block of land with it. I've sold houses on blocks of land that big almost. So for me, that as much as it was one unit in a small complex of about, I think 20 or so, because it was such a big block of land, I was happy with that. Otherwise, no, I'm not too keen on them.
Well,
and to be honest,
that session on your show about the deal where you could sort of the thing about low density or any units in general is that you can more easily do comparable sale, well, not more easily, but there's likely going to be a comparable sale, so you can sort of say, oh, look, I can buy this at 250, the one next door sold for 280, and it's exactly the same. Like, you need to confirm that it is, but that's a potential option or opportunity.
Yeah. If you can add value and the numbers are there, then it's different. But what's that? How did you find the government department to give you the head lease? Sean has no. This was just calling around. There were other agencies as well in different places that I talked to, but Sean was actually the one that I actually got it from there. He's not an agent anymore, so I don't know if he'll appreciate me saying that. I've just realized, but he was.
They don't do those for Airbnb, so I don't think he cares about them anymore.
Here we go. This is great. I love this question. What is your? Oh, sorry, you go, Joe.
No, I think there's a bit of a delay on my side of things, but you can have that conversation. Just Google it, and there are a number of agencies, and then just jump on the phone. These people are begging for supply of properties to be able to put people that need them, because there is a massive rental crisis, and these people can't afford to do it. So you are doing good by renting this out, Todd. I think that's one thing to note as well, is you are providing housing, which is amazing to be able to allow someone to live somewhere where they don't necessarily can live. But actually, Todd, one thing that I didn't think about with this government is you would have had staggered leases. You would have had one lease that's expiring in a month, one lease that's expiring in 3 months, one lease that's expiring in 6 months, one lease expiring in 9 months. How did you configure that to get everyone leased out? Because you would have had to remove the current tenants to get the new tenants in. And
how long is that for as well? Like, how did you do that?
So you're right. They all basically expired at slightly different times, and so the head lease is actually divided up. So it's a lease over the unit, which is then allows them to sublease the actual property to their I think they call them clients. But all of them stopped at different times. I think the first two stopped. And actually, this is actually another point that I didn't really touch on. It was something that made it more unattractive, because the yield, looking at it on its current rented value, not current, its current at the time of purchase rented value, was horrible, because it was only rented out, each of them, I think one was rented out for $220 a week, the other was rented out for $250 a week, the other was like $240, and I think the other was like $260. And so I naturally got all the quotes and everything beforehand. And then when they said anywhere between $330 and $350, it was like, brilliant, this works a lot better. And so if I had have actually done the numbers on those original rental estimates, or not rental estimates, actual rental figures, it would look rubbish. Yeah, wouldn't have worked at all.
Yeah, great point. That's seeing what doesn't exist already, but that allows you to leverage your negotiation skills, because you're saying 200, 180, 220. Look at my yield. I've got a 5% yield here, Mr. Real Estate Agent. Would you buy this at a 5% yield? Absolutely not. Oh, well, it's worth more. Well, it doesn't matter what it's worth now. In the future, I've got to buy this thing as what it currently is. So sorry, I can't give you 800. So we're going to have to be somewhere below that. So let's have a conversation. We kind of flow like that.
Boom button, Joe, because that was perfect the way that you put that.
There you go. Negotiation masterclass round 2. Okay, good.
And how long are those? How long is the head lease as well, Todd? Is the question that was asked. So can you disclose?
It's 12 months. Yeah. So and I only want them as 12 months because I want them to be reviewed as well, because I don't see things getting any easier anytime soon. Maybe wrong. The one thing I know about property is no one knows everything about property, but I can see times staying kind of consistent as far as the rental stock.
Yeah. And how do you think about supply? Like with this unit block, is there a different way that you think about supply for units than you do for housing, like for normal everyday housing? And is there concerns on that front for this one?
Not really. In long term, yes. I guess that could happen, but I would probably be in the boat to then just join whatever development was going on then as well. But as it stands at the moment, not really. There's quite a shortage in cans. I'm not going to pretend to know the numbers off the top of my head because I didn't prepare any of that at the moment.
Yeah.
But there is quite a shortage up there. For the amount that they would need to build, it's just not happening. Will they catch up? I hope so for them, and then more than likely they will. But I don't think it's going to happen for a while.
Yeah, and also the property. I've driven past your property. I was looking when I was up in Cairns doing boots on the ground. It is in the middle of, not in the middle of town, but it's surrounded by other buildings and things like that. So there's not going to be a huge amount of infill. So this is still, when they build these new units, it's going to be outside in the sticks type of house and land package style. But you've gone with the infill type of product rather than. So is there more development potential down the line? Like, is there better density and zoning? Like, was that a consideration of your purchase, or you're just happy with the 4 units and that's where it's going to stay?
For now, happy with the 4 units and that's where it's going to stay. As far as development density, I don't think I can put any more on there from what I researched. It pretty much is what it is. But to be completely honest, I didn't look that hard because it wasn't in my plan. And the way that I'd look at that is, if I was to buy this as a development site, I don't think the numbers would have stacked up. So even if I could actually develop on that, right now, I'd be spending that money on buying another site, acquiring a different asset.
Yeah. It often, because you basically be knocking down the only way, like if they increase it to maybe, I don't know, an eight pack or something like that, but then you'd have to weigh in costs and lots of stuff.
Yeah, and actually, I have just thought of a downside to it, and I will come to that question, whoever's asking that. But the downside is land to asset ratio is out of whack. That's probably a big downside.
How many square meters is it?
It's like 700 and something square meters. So when you think about it, pretty much like a full-size house block. But you wouldn't pay $770 for a house there.
Yes. However, how much are units? So you're going to potentially strata subdivide this unit and then be able to sell a unit by itself individually. So that would go for what, $250,000, $300,000 per individual unit. So you've got 3, 6, 9, 12. That would be 1.2 mil. So actually, that's probably what the value of the property is worth anyway after you've renovated. So maybe it's best not to strata subdivide it and just sell it as a fixed unit.
Yeah, and I wouldn't at the moment anyway. Yeah. But
it depends on what somebody's strategy is though as well, because if you wanted to reduce debt, you could just sell one.
Yeah, well, let's talk to that. Yeah. Bring that question up, Jeff. What was the question?
Yeah. So the answer to that, family wealth, no exit strategy. I don't want to sell property. I look at when people talk about the double on the double. When you buy a property for $200,000 and it doubles to 400, it's amazing. But then when that 400 doubles to 800, that's like, what's going on? This is amazing on top of amazing. But I look at it and I think I saw so many people sell their property after owning it for like 2 years, 3 years, and they'd make $100,000, $200,000, whatever it was, think they were like done an amazing job. But then the people that I met that created serious wealth, like there's a family here in Adelaide that I've sold a development site to. And it's insane amounts of money. I actually want to get them on the show, but they're very private. So I'm not going to mention any kind of names out of respect. But they own something like 100 different commercial premises. And we're talking like proper shopping centers, Rebel Sports, like real stuff. And when I asked them about what they did different, they just said, we never sell anything. We always keep it. And Frank Lowe didn't start selling Westfield. Triggenboff didn't start selling out. Do you know what I mean? Like that's my strategy of it. and I'm happy still wearing my $12 shoes from Kmart at the moment until I can just keep building that.
$12 shoes will get you there.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
crunch my monthly expenses, and I'm certainly not living on a $12 Kmart budget, unfortunately. But kind of wish it would be nice. But
you're too lavish for my
blood. So on that note, so I think we're gonna keep it to an hour and a half. So I'd love to sponsored by Kmart, and they own half of Mount Buller. I'd love to chat to financial. Well, okay, let's do it quickly. We can do it in a couple of minutes. And if anybody has any question about this, we'll take one question about this. So where are you sort of tracking in your sort of financial freedom journey? Like I think 12 months ago, yeah, give us an update. Where are you up to?
Can someone refill Joe's glass of water for him first?
Poor bloke.
Doing well. Still fine.
I'm still good to go.
The
show will go on.
Portfolio is currently sitting at around 3. I think it's 3.3 to 3.5, depending on what day of the week anything was to get valued. The goal is 10 million portfolio on a 50-50 LVR. So it is, when we first spoke, it was positively geared by almost 70 grand a year. Now it's about neutral as where it sits at the moment. As you saw, it's like the unit block was positive by $50 a week. So when I say about neutral, it's probably still positive by like 5,000 to 10,000. But after coming off closer to 70, that kind of feels like it's nothing. And I feel like it's just a couple more decisions by Big Daddy Low, and then that's going to disappear as well.
So that's actually very important point, because this has been quite a savior for your portfolio. So if you removed this cash cow that you have in there, you would have been, I mean, how much positive cash flow would you have been? And then how much negative would you be without this one? Because that thing was,
Well, it's only 2.5. It's only 2.5 grand a year, $50 a week. Hang on, that's more than that. 5 times 5 is, yeah, it is.
I can add up all of them. I don't actually, because I'm here. All the numbers are properly at home. But if you think about it, so the first one I paid 62.5, then valued at, I think it's now 280. That rents out for something like 250 a week. The next one was 110. That's valued at 300, which rents out for 300 and something a week. Then the next one bought for 212, which is now valued at just under 600, rents out for 480 a week. So they're all still higher. 480. Really good tenants. It should be 500, but they take better care of that place than Bianca and I do of our own home. And it's, yeah.
Anyway. Keep drilling into the walls and putting lights up.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So, and then what's after that? Then got Queensland. That was, I think, 303 plus 120 granny. That's worth around 700-ish now. Rents out for $1,000 a week combined. Then the other smaller unit, which I got for 220, which is now worth around 380 to 400. Actually, one just sold without a renovated bathroom for 380. So yeah, it's probably more like 400. And that rents out for I think it's 400 or 410 a week. So like everything's close to, like, on purchase yield, I think my whole portfolio is around sort of 9 to 10%, which is the safety side of it now as well, because there is going to be a lot of people that will be feeling the pinch and feeling the pain. And as much as I understand that the assets that I've selected might not be quality that some people really subscribe to, I'm very much a believer in you've got to do what's right for you and your portfolio. It's enabled me to make a few different life decisions, but it's also enabled me to actually sleep at night when the rates just keep going up and up. I just keep going, oh, but I'm not going, holy shit, what do I do? Like it's
yeah. Because if you went all blue chip for these, you would be, $70,000 positive to zero is not that bad, because you're still got capital growth. It's still growing. It's still doing its thing. But then going from zero to negative $70,000, that's going to fundamentally shift not anyone's, but most people's lifestyle and how they make their decisions.
Absolutely.
Big step. It's a big step down, which is why you need to be running these what if scenarios, right? Like, what if interest rates rise? Actually, I'll drop that in. We actually just upgraded the Deal Crunch calculator. So I'll share the link with that because I was going to.
You upgraded it, or did you update it?
Yeah, I updated it to allow people to, when they enter in their interest rate, it automatically calculates and throws over 0.5% interest on each point. So anyone can download that, but we'll release that in the news. Well, actually, we'll release it now to the people that are on it now.
Is that what the newsletter is that you were telling me about, Joe, that I need to review to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's all been updated. But anyway, it just allows you to run those scenarios. Okay, let's say not Mr. Lowe. He's gone. It's the other lady. It's the new lady now. They raise interest rates. What does that mean for my portfolio? How is that going to act? But this has been an unreal session, Todd. Thank you very much for being so open and transparent around this deal, because I've kind of been through this purchasing journey with you for this block of units, and it hasn't been smooth sailing. Like when the plumbing issue came about, it was very scary. Like, what the hell have I just bought, and how much money is this going to cost me? And is insurance even going to cover this? Is this not just maintenance? Has this got anything to do with the insurance company? Lucky it did, and it all worked out. But those situations can get very, very dirty very quickly. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad you
Do you want me to just quickly jump in and answer these questions in like a dot point format? I'm just noticing there's a few over. All right. Thoughts on Dan Andrews? Not a fan. King of theft. That's not a question. Good for land tax.
That was towards Dan Andrews.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I just think, my thoughts are he's the head of a party that isn't what's his name? Not Glenn Stevens. It's like that Low, Phil Low. Like, everybody's like, oh, he's evil. It's like, well, it's actually the whole. It's not him as making these individual decisions.
Miss Puppet is her name, is kind of what you're saying there, but Jeff,
Miss Puppet.
Anyway, go on. Rapid fire, Todd.
Good for land tax. Still within threshold. Should have bought this in a trust. That's one of the biggest things I regret about this purchase. Sponsored by Kmart? No, I'm not, but I would take the sponsorship. And half of Mount Bullet.
Did you know that Kmart and Kmart and Target? There's some sort of they're
You're really messing up this rapid fire here, Jeff. You're really
I hear these things throughout my day, and I need to give some input.
$12 Kmart shoes and private jets. I don't fly a jet. I fly a single prop plane. It's not a private jet. Do you have a PPI too? Yes. Combined Bianca and IS portfolios more around 4.7, 4.8 million. Cash flow versus blue chip. For me, cash flow. It's not the blue chip side. Deal Crunch calculator, not a question, but that is a wonderful thing that Joe's created there. Definitely play with that. The point of the game is to continue playing Alex Samozi. Love that. What are the future of rates? I'm not sure. Let's just say up a little bit more and then down. Miss Puppet is her name. Heaps. I've been investing that too, Jeff. Ha ha. Okay, we're done.
Investigating that too. Who's been
investigating? Sorry. Yeah. God, Joe, could you get some water?
I get some water now.
We should have got a guess. You got a guess, Joe. But the interesting thing about this Alex Samozi, we'll finish off on this, I reckon. I think rather than I do like my quotes. Continue playing. I say enjoy playing the game, because like if you just playing for the sake of it, like just enjoy the damn thing. Like what you never know when. I mean, I don't know. I get the point. It's like not to give up and all that sort of stuff. But
I guess
if you're not enjoying something,
you'd enjoy it, though, wouldn't you?
What was that, mate?
Yeah, I guess you'd continue playing if you did enjoy it, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, like if you're just not enjoying something, why? Well, yeah, you got this spicy cough king. Jeez, there you go. But no, future of rates. I think you need to factor in a higher than what it is now. And if it goes down, then you win. If it goes up a little bit, then you're still hopefully ahead.
I personally, if I was in charge, which is probably a good thing that I'm not, but I would have been a lot more aggressive quickly, just to try and scare the crap out of the whole country. So they went, whoop, wait a second, and stop spending sooner, because I don't understand where it's just these little increments. It allowed people to get comfortable at each point and keep going. Where I think if there was a big, like, bam, 1%, we all would have gone, oh, shit, maybe we shouldn't go out and buy, like, dinner tonight.
I don't know. It works initially. Like, you're shocked for a couple of days. You're like, I want that KFC. I want that big family bucket. they might have got 1%, but it's all right, mate. She'll be right. So, like, regardless, like we adjust very quickly, even if there's a big shock. So, I think what they're attempting to do is get inflation and the cash rate close enough together without absolutely sending us to Armageddon. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't want their job.
Very, very friendly, Jenny. I appreciate you saying love the property game. But yeah, okay, Todd.
Anything else you wanted to say about the property, Todd? Anything you want to say about the unit blocks, or in general?
Not really. About the unit block, don't be allured into a yield if it's not actually the right thing for your portfolio. Don't think just because it's high yield, it's good. As much as I've chased yield with that, it's because it fit the rest of the picture. And if you are going to do something like this, I would strongly advise against it being a first purchase. Get your hand held, get a buyer's agent in your corner, get some solid advice around you if you haven't done it before, because you don't want to dabble with something like this first time round.
Yeah.
No.
Cracking night. How do people learn more about you, Todd? How do we get more Todd Sloan in our life?
iTunes, Spotify, Pizza and Property. That's probably the best way to do it. Or you can door knock where I live and door knock on my house and see if I'm wanting to sell. Don't.
Here we go. There's one more question. Let's DJ's a regular viewer, so let's finish off on this one. Everyone was saying rents would go up in line with the reality last. What do you mean everyone? I don't know. Was everyone saying that? I mean, I don't know many people that were saying that. I mean,
properties are staying vacant for 2 months plus. I don't know. I think let's.
Yeah. What's his favorite pizza address? Oh yeah.
Good question.
No more rapid fire.
No,
hey,
no.
Let's wrap this up. We're just yammering. We're wasting everyone's time. Thank you very much for joining the show. Jump onto Pizza and Property Podcast. Have a great evening, everyone. We will see you next.